I am a chronic oversharer. Many of you probably don't actually know that I've been a complicated grieving process and most people just ignored me. But I can explain means that we can't have kids the normal way. So I can be very unsure of myself. So yeah, this could be interesting. I don't know what you want me to do about it, Steve. I cannot control the weather. I'm sorry. Oh, you're a sog. My cat is wet. I made the mistake of letting him in the garden during a storm because he would not stop shouting, and now he is all soggy. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Here is Steve. Steve's channel, we should call it really, I think. Come on. Oh, let go. Just a heads up, Steve might start shouting in this video, and it's because there is a storm outside. Steve, for some reason, has got it in his head that I can control the weather and turn off the rain, and I can't, and he gets mad about it, so he shouts. Anyway, today I thought we could sit down, have a little chat, get to know each other. I thought this might be a useful video to have on the channel for anyone who stumbles across my YouTube and wonders who the hell I am. What am I doing here? And I did in fact have the audacity to ask people to ask me questions over on Instagram. And a lot of you did very kindly respond. So I'm going to work my way through some of these questions. I've chosen ones that I think kind of give an all-rounder sort of view of my life and what I do, but also some that would just be fun to answer. I am a chronic oversharer, so I am very honest about how I feel about things a lot of the time. So yeah, this could be interesting. But I'm going to timestamp this video because it will be split into two sort of parts. Part 1 will cover all things illustration. Part 2 will I'll pick a couple of questions which are a bit more about my personal life. So if you're here for the juicy goss, you can just kind of hold out towards the end. Before we do start, for anyone who is new, has never seen me before, hello, hi, my name is Jess, and I am an illustrator. I specialise in children's books. Oh my goodness, I have been doing this for I've been working as an illustrator for about 10 years now. I'm 33. I have a cat called Steve, who you would have just seen. He is the light of my life. I live in a little cottage with my boyfriend Jack. We've been together for 2 years now, but I feel like I've known him my entire life. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So whilst we are answering these questions, I've decided that I'm going to work on my little felt mouse. I realise it doesn't look like a mouse at present. Kind of looks like a chicken drumstick. And I will caveat this by saying I am no expert in felting, but I do enjoy doing it. And I made this little creepy felt Steve last year. He's missing a pupil, his foot is hanging off, and he has no tail. I really enjoy doing it. I find it really therapeutic, and if you've not tried it, it's a really easy craft. You have to be careful not to stab yourself, but essentially all you do, you just get a lump of felt and you kind of mould it into the shape you want and just kind of poke it, and as you stab it, it gets firmer. But I will say it does take a long time, so we will not be making much progress on this today, but I will definitely share it with you when it's finished. So let's get into the questions. So I've got two here, which kind of are very similar, so I will answer them together. Number 1 being, any advice for someone who wants to get into book illustration? And number 2 being, how to become a children's book illustrator. So, I will say, I don't believe there is a linear approach to getting into children's books, but I can talk about my own experience and how I did it. Not saying it's the right one or the easiest, but I did do a degree in illustration. I graduated in 2018, and I'll start by saying you absolutely do not need a degree to work as an illustrator or to work in any art field for that matter, really. Yeah, you really don't need it, but for me it really helped. I think it depends on the sort of person that you are, in that for me I work best with guidance and with encouragement, and occasionally I do need a little push because I can be very unsure of myself, and especially early career, I really needed that. Also, my degree obviously taught me a lot about the industry. It kind of exposed me to lots of different areas of illustration, because when I started my degree, I was not interested in children's books at all. It wasn't until maybe my second year that I really became interested in it and then decided that was a career that I wanted to pursue. So yeah, not essential, but it really helped, I believe. And after uni, I spent a long time kind of just like feeling sorry for myself, wondering why I wasn't getting like hundreds of job offers every day. And then eventually I gave myself a kick up the bum and decided I needed to work on my portfolio, decide what it was I actually wanted to do. And I'd say that is probably the next most important step, or the most important step, is to learn the craft of children's books, because I believe there's a lot more to it than just being able to draw nice characters and make nice pictures. What's more important is the ability to tell stories through illustration and to work sequentially. So learning the craft of children's books I think is really important. And again, as I said, you don't need a degree, you don't need to go to uni to do that. There are hundreds of like online courses, there are books you can read. I would highly recommend Martin Salisbury's book on illustrating children's books. That was very good, very helpful. But yeah, I feel like this one question could be a whole video, but like I'm trying to keep it brief. So yes, kind of learning the craft and then making sure your portfolio ticks a lot of boxes, because you want to show potential publishers, art directors, agents even, that you can tackle a variety of subject matter. So lots of different kinds of people, characters, scenery. You want to show full bleed illustrations, and by that I mean edge-to-edge artwork, as well as vignettes and spot illustrations, which are just kind of smaller artwork. And then very importantly, to show that you can illustrate sequentially. So within your portfolio, having a sequence of illustrations that show your storytelling abilities. Because I would argue, in picture books especially, the illustrations, they tell the story as much as, and if not more sometimes, than the text itself. So it's a whole other language you have to learn, essentially. But yeah, if you nail that, then it is just a case of being brave and putting yourself out there and submitting your work to lots and lots of people. So for me, I decided that I wanted an agent because I don't really like promoting myself, which I realise I've got a lot better at it, because I realise I'm sat here filming myself. But a few years ago, when I was starting out, I was not very good at it, and I was not very confident at all. Maybe start by trying to get yourself an agent. There's like pros and cons to having an agent. Obviously they take a cut. Average is about 30%, but you could then kind of balance that out with the fact that they are going to make sure you are getting paid enough. They will argue for higher fees on your behalf. They do all of the scary stuff like negotiating contracts and things like that. And then also they do, of course, have contacts within the industry, which when you're starting out is really, really hard to get. That's like totally a personal decision for me. So I have been with the Plum Agency since 2019, 2020, I think. I'm actually not sure. It's been a few years, and they've helped me massively to get my career off the ground. And yeah, no regrets there. In terms of submitting work to publishers and agencies as well, I would say the most important thing is to check the submission guidelines, because they will get hundreds of submissions every month, and it's important you check what their guidelines are, because if you don't, they'll obviously think that you're just kind of sending your work out to loads of different people and that you're not really thinking about it and don't really care. Because on their website it will often say, you know, they want just a link to your website. They might just want a few low-res JPEGs. They might want to see 20 examples of your work. It really depends. So just I'd make sure you check that, and then just be patient, because it can take a while. And you may get rejections. You probably will get rejections. I got a few, and then most people just ignored me. But yeah, that was a very long first question. I will try to make the others a bit shorter. How to gain inspiration to create? And again, I'm going to pair this with another question. How do you shake off drawing block, aka writer's block? So I feel like there's a few ways of dealing with this, and I'll start by saying, and this, I suppose this is what motivates me to create more than anything, is when I have an idea that I'm really excited about, and the things that inspire these ideas are usually stories, which makes sense. So I'm a children's book illustrator. To be specific, stories that I'm familiar with and enjoy, and especially those that kind of give me a sense of nostalgia. So if I am stuck for inspiration but I want to draw because I know it feels good and I know I enjoy it, I will look at stories that I know and love, and I will try and illustrate a scene that has not been illustrated before, at least that I've not seen myself, or that has not been, say if there are film adaptations of this story, I would try and illustrate a scene that was not included in the film. And this is like a bit of a niche way of thinking about it, but I'm just thinking of the times when I've been working on my illustrations where I've had the most fun and got the most reward from it, and that's it. And I was thinking about it, and I think it's because, to me, it's almost like when, you know, when there's a film you really like and then they release the director's cut version where you get loads of extra scenes and it feels like gold dust because you're excited because you're getting more of this story that you already love. And for me, when I create illustrations based off of stories that I love, it feels like I'm giving myself more of that story, and it gives me an opportunity to visualize, imagine, and create this feeling and this thing that I've had in my head, but then to finally get it down onto paper or the iPad. I don't know what it is. It just feels like, even though it's me who's creating it and it's coming from my head, I just like, I feel like I'm discovering it, and it's really exciting. A good example of that, it would be, I did one a few years ago. It was a Harry Potter illustration, and it was a scene in Ron's bedroom. I remember the description of his bedroom in the book was so vivid and so detailed, yet in the film you don't really see it that much, and I decided I wanted to illustrate it, and I had such a good time. Like, I went back over the books, I was kind of combing through the text looking for like little Easter eggs and clues I could include in the illustration. I'll show it here. So I've got all of his like Quidditch team posters on the wall and all the paraphernalia, and then Pigwidgeon, the little owl who we don't see in the films, he's in there as well. And I don't know, for me it is those little details. That's what motivates me to create stuff. And then on the flip side of that, because that also requires a lot of work and a lot of effort, and if you are struggling with drawer's block, should we call it, artist block, that can seem overwhelming. So then the other thing to do, which is something I've only recently started kind of putting back into my practice again, is just to draw for the fun of it with no expectation and no plan, which can actually be daunting in itself. But I did this last month, and I actually posted the result on Instagram, and I loved it. I basically was just like, I just want to draw some kind of autumnal, slightly Halloween-y things. I don't want it to be a perfect scene. Oh, in fact, I'll put it here rather than showing on my phone. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and that, I think, incorporating that, just like play and to experiment, and you've probably heard it before, and there's a reason people go on about it all the time, like sketchbooking really does help, and it also helps you with developing your style as well, because if you're in that sketchbook mindset, you're more likely to take risks and to experiment, and to, you know, if you're not thinking of the end goal, which is to turn this artwork into a print, you won't stress about it so much. I think what a lot of the time what causes this block is the feeling of pressure and stress, and you know, when your hobby turns into work, it's a requirement, you have to do it and it has to be good, and that can kind of suck the fun out of it a little bit sometimes. I realised I stopped felting, although I'm not sure how sensible an idea it is to answer these questions whilst kind of repeatedly stabbing this thing that is very close to my fingers, because I'm not really concentrating on it. Yeah, I just had to switch the battery, so if the angles change, that's why. Okay, I'm taking way too long to answer these questions. What age did you learn how to draw? My kids are 8 and 10, we love following you. I love that, that's so nice. I have been drawing for as long as I can remember. I've got 2 older siblings, and I'm gonna get started on another leg, or maybe I'm gonna start on his head. Yeah, I've got 2 older siblings, and we're all quite competitive. They're both quite creative as well. Yeah, we did a lot of drawing and painting when we were growing up. As for when I learned to draw, I would say I started taking it seriously maybe in my teens. And then I feel like learning to draw kind of happened in 2 stages. So stage 1 was learning how to draw realistically, which I feel like It's a rite of passage for any artist, no matter what field you're going into. You learn how to draw realistically, and the goal is always photorealism, as like crisp and as realistic as you could possibly get it. Your goal is for people to look at your drawings and say, oh my goodness, that looks like a photo. Until you get to a point when you're like, oh, okay, so what's the point? I might as well have just taken a photo. And then you evolve to stage 2, which is kind of learning how to stylize and add character and to personalize your work. And that stage for me is an ongoing process, and I would say it's leveling out a little bit now, but I'm absolutely still learning, and I will maybe one day we'll do a video where I show you the evolution of my art, because some of the stuff I was even making at uni was awful. My characters were shocking, because up until then I'd done a lot of realistic portraiture. I learned how to oil paint. I was actually pretty good at it, I will say. But when I decided I wanted to do children's books, my characters were so bad. And ow, I just stabbed myself. And even now, I struggle with hands and feet still. I don't like drawing men. I have nothing against men. I think men are great. I just don't like illustrating them at all. Unless they're old men, like cute old men, I quite enjoy doing. Dogs, don't like drawing dogs. I had to do a picture book with a dog in it a couple of years ago, and I would not stop going on about how much I hated having to draw this dog. And again, I have nothing against dogs. I just, they all look so different. This is my problem. It's not like with humans, yes, we vary a lot in shape and size, but you know, arms are arms, legs are legs. Whereas dogs, they're completely different shapes and colours, and their hair, and like, I just can't, I kind of master one dog and then another dog comes along. In fact, I've actually got a book cover and we're going to start work on soon. It's got a dog in it. Damn it. Why aren't people giving me cat books? But yeah, anyway, moving on. Would you consider making tutorials / creating an art course? So I do actually have a lot of tutorials over on my Patreon. I say a lot, there's a few tutorials. It's not really like a structured course or anything like that. That is something I thought about before, but I honestly wouldn't know where to start. Like, I wouldn't know who I was making it for, because obviously there are so many different like aspects to illustration and to my job. So would it be like a beginner's course for Procreate? Would it be, you know, the anatomy of a picture book? Or I don't know, there's just like, there's so many things, and I wouldn't know where to start. But I'll never say never, and I actually would love to teach one day at like in person, kind of at a university or something. That's like a long-term life goal. So this next question we're kind of moving more onto the personal stuff now. I realise I'm taking a long time. I don't want this video to be like 10 years long. So your family is very creative. Was your mother a creative person? So I will begin by saying that I realise I've mentioned my mum a couple of times in these videos, and I realised that many of you probably don't actually know that she is no longer with us. She very sadly passed away at the end of the pandemic, so it wasn't even that long ago really. It honestly feels like last year, even though it wasn't. And that has let's just say it's been a complicated grieving process, and I still don't know how. I know I said I'm an oversharer, but like that is the one thing that I don't know how I feel about talking about it. Like I almost don't even think about it in my own head properly, if that makes any sense. Like I said, it's a complicated grief. What I will say, to answer the question, I love my mum very much, but she was not creative, and she would have been the first one to admit that. My mum was a people person, like weirdly very shy and very anxious, but she loved people. She loved caring for people, and I think that was her thing. The creativity comes from my dad's side, I would say, and yeah, I feel like my mum would agree with all of that. Although, saying that, I do recall being quite young and I was drawing some sort of landscape scene with the sun in the corner, you know, the classic children's landscape. And I remember asking Mum how to draw birds in the sky. And because I was getting really stressed about it, I was thinking I'm going to have to draw all the details and the beaks and their little bellies and then the tail and all of the feathers on their wings. And she's like, no, you don't need to do that. You could just draw like a little V for the birds. And I was like thinking on that now. That was quite a big lesson in my artistic journey. That, you know, the lesson of not having to overwork things, and sometimes like simplicity is best. Like that simple line, we all know if you draw a little V in the sky and if there's a cluster of them, we all know that's birds. And I still do it now. So yeah, actually, this is beginning to look like a head. I do need to make it pointy. But yeah, maybe I will talk more about Mum at some point, but I don't think today's the day. Okay, we'll go for something a bit lighter now to break it up before we move on to the heavy again. I love these questions. Which 3 famous people would you invite to a dinner party? So we'll do dead and alive. We'll start with alive. Stephen Fry. I just love him. I just love Stephen Fry. I just want to pick his brain because he is like an encyclopedia. He knows so much about so many topics, and yeah, I love him. I've read his autobiographies and he's just so honest, so humble, so lovely and funny. I just want to give him a hug. So yeah, Stephen Fry. I will say Taylor Swift. It has to be Taylor. I just think me and Taylor would get on so well. We've actually got quite a lot in common, me and Taylor. We both love cats and autumn, and I love her music, and I'm assuming she loves her music too. Also, Taylor got with Travis the same month that me and Jack got together, and I feel like we could bond over that as well. So I'd have to invite Taylor, Stephen Fry, and then I think it'd be a toss-up between Ian McKellen and Philip Pullman. Possibly Philip Pullman, because I would also want to use that as an opportunity to beg him to let me illustrate his next book, whatever that might be. Ed, it would be Jane Austen. I partly because I want to know what she looks like, because the only portrait we have of her is one that her sister Cassandra drew, and she wasn't an artist, that wasn't her job. And certain members of Jane Austen's family have said themselves that it looks nothing like this portrait, and that portrait has actually been like prettified as well, so it's not even like the original drawing that Cassandra did of Jane looks nothing like the one that you see on the UK £10 notes now. And yeah, so Jane Austen, and also just because how cool would it be to meet Jane Austen? Beatrix Potter. I would like to think that she is like Dawn French, you know, in Dawn French in the film, what's it called, Roald and Beatrix and Roald, or something about Roald Dahl and Beatrix Potter. I would like to think she is like that, like the character that Dawn French plays. Yeah, Beatrix Potter, and I don't know for a third actually. Possibly Queen Victoria, because I've just read a biography about her and it was fascinating and I want to know what she was like. You're a children's book illustrator. Would you like to have kids of your own one day? Yes we would, and in actual fact, this is not a pregnancy announcement, but I have spoken to Jack and he's happy for me to talk about it. We are at the very early stages of IVF because Jack has cystic fibrosis, which means that we can't have kids the normal way, and we have been on a waiting list for IVF for about a year. And as I said at the beginning, me and Jack have only actually been together for 2 years, but something happened in our lives that made us realise that life is very short, and we knew the waiting list for IVF is very long, so we got ourselves on the list because we knew it's something we both wanted, and also I'm 33 and time is ticking, you know. We're at like the very early stages of that, and I actually talk about this in depth over over on Patreon. I won't go into it now, but if you would like to know more about that, you're very welcome to join me over there. Yeah, like Jack, I feel like Jack's main ambition in life is just to be a dad, and I obviously want to be a mum, and hopefully it all works out. I will not be getting pregnant anytime soon. It's gonna be a long old journey, because even though we're doing IVF, we're not doing it the normal way. There's like other stages we have to go through because of Jack's CF. Sorry, this is another like kind of worky question. What do you hope your art evolves into style-wise? Anything new that inspires your art recently? Let me read that again. I'm doing that thing where, you know when you read something and your brain just doesn't process it. Can we see? He's only got one leg, but he's starting to become a mouse. I've been stuck in a bit of a rut with my work recently, in that it's starting to feel a little bit stagnant. So what I have been doing, I've been trying to incorporate what I call a little bit of wonky into my work, in that it was starting to look a little bit too clean, too polished, and I don't like it. I want more character. I want to take a step back and create work that is more expressive, has more character, more energy. Yeah, I'm calling it wonkiness, like perfectly imperfect or intentionally naive. Other illustrators who I think are very good at this are Julia Sarda, Rebecca Green, Taryn Knight, to name a few. Yeah, that's something I'm interested in, and I have been thinking more and more, and I feel like every digital artist does this as well. I've seen it so many times. We become obsessed with our iPads, our drawing tablets, and then we kind of, and I don't think this just happens with art. I feel like this happens in life in general with like technology. Like things get almost so advanced that you then rebel against it and want to take a step back. It happened with the arts and crafts movement. That's exactly what that was. That was a reaction to industrialism, harking back to the good old days. And I've been thinking for a while I might start painting and drawing traditionally again, because that was how I started. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, one more, because I've been talking for a long time and I've actually got a sore throat. Okay, this is an easy one. Steve was 6 when he became your cat. Was he already called Steve before? No, he wasn't, but I can explain. So please don't judge me. When I first met Steve, I hadn't yet met his owner. So he would just come in the garden or like be sitting at the front of the house. So I'd hang out with him quite a lot. And I didn't know what his name was, so we just called him Steve. It just felt right. And funnily enough, my dad is actually called Steve, and people often ask, like, do you name your cat after your dad? I'm like, no, actually. Like, I love my dad. It's like, he's amazing, but I think of my dad as Dad, not Steve. Yeah, Steve just felt right. And then when I did eventually meet Steve's owner, she's lovely, and she thought it was hilarious that we called him Steve, and then she would even call him Steve as well. Like, so Steve is like his nickname, but his original name, his birth name, was Fusa. He's named after a character from Madagascar. But yeah, Steve doesn't answer to either. The only thing he answers to is the tone of your voice, so you could literally say anything in like that high-pitched voice and his ears will go, but he doesn't care. And I like to think of Fusa as his proper name, but Steve is his nickname or stage name. But I couldn't change it now, and that period between meeting Steve and meeting his owner was like a fairly decent amount of time. So by the time I did learn that his name was Fusa, Steve was already ingrained in my head, and I couldn't change it. I will say, when we go to the vets, it always makes me laugh when they come out and they call his name, but they'll give him my surname, which is obviously my dad's full name, and they'll say Steve Mason. I'm like, that's my dad. The best one, actually, I was in a waiting room with Steve, and the vet came out and called out Beyonce, and it was a rat. It was a little rat called Beyonce, which I thought was amazing. I realised I didn't answer that many questions, but I feel like I covered a lot in the questions that I did answer. I will say I've not made much progress on my mouse character. Just show you this lumpy mess. Present. But what I'll do is when I do finish it, I will definitely show you the result. It might be terrible. He does look a bit lumpy, to be fair. If you have any tips for me on felting, please do leave a comment down below. I would appreciate that very much. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it so much if you could like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Next week we're going to be starting the Christmassy videos. It may still feel a bit early for some, but I'm very excited now. I'm very much in the Christmas spirit. I couldn't help it. Also, me and Jack are going away at the beginning of December. I'm going to be taking the camera, and honestly, I have not been so excited for a holiday. It's only 4 days, but so excited for a holiday in my entire life. It's like the most perfect, bookish, festive, cozy. But yeah, I will be filming it. Lots of exciting things coming up in the next few weeks. I hope you guys are all doing okay. I will see you all next week. Bye!